Divisional racing is the backbone of the Sportsman classes in the National Hot Rod Association. And each of the 7 regions have their local heroes and favorite sons. When the Winston Tour weaves west, it's a call to arms for the men of the Pacific and Northwest regions to defend their reputations on their home turf against the national event regulars and the touring title holders. The Sportsman categories are the most competitive in the National Hot Rod Association, with the top alcohol funny car and top alcohol dragsters being at the top of the ladder. The hundredths and thousandths of a second that trigger victory are squeezed more from guile and grit than infusions of cash. But like the fuel, the other common denominator flowing through these ranks is that no matter where these competitors may find themselves, they just want to go racing. And they'd probably go to the ends of the earth to do just that. This is the Autolite Sportsman Challenge from Sears Point International Raceway, home of the Autolite Nationals. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Autolite Sportsman Challenge on Prime Network. Along with Alan Reinhardt and Bill Stevens, I'm Bob Fry. Well, the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Tour is headed west, as you can probably tell by the landscape, and the geography isn't the only thing that's changing. The look of the top alcohol dragster and top alcohol funny car fields will also be completely different here at this event from anything we've seen in previous shows in the Autolite Sportsman Challenge this year. The battle in top alcohol dragster is wide open, what with Blaine Johnson departing to go and run in Top Fuel, and a couple of the national points contenders are here, but they're going to be sorely tested by some of the runners from the Northern California and great northwestern parts of the country. One of the guys that still has title hopes this year is Jay Payne, and my colleague Bill Stevens is over in his pit area right now.
Well, Bob, Jay Payne has made no secret of the fact he would like that Winston Championship. He has been traveling all over the country this season, national events, divisional events, stocking up Winston points. Jay, there's been a couple of rules changes this year that could affect the championship race concerning you and another West Coast racer, Rick Santos. How do you think those rule changes are going to impact the championship?
Well, the biggest thing they're talking about right now is weight break. They added 1/10 of a pound to Rick Santos' car. That's only 38 pounds. We'd like to see the weights even up across the board. But the biggest thing was last year when they slowed our whistleblower down, they sped his PSI up.
Have the changes slowed your car down any?
Yes. Plus you have to run it a lot harder.
Well, even though the car is slower, Jay is still a front runner for the championship. Now to find out what's happening in top alcohol funny car, let's go to Alan Reinhardt.
When we get to the West Coast, we always see new faces in alcohol funny car here on the Autolite Sportsman Challenge. Guys like Lou Gasparelli, Mert Littlefield, they run very well out in this part of the world. But right now, there's no doubt about it. The hottest car on the West Coast, it's this one. This car belongs to Rick Henkelman. It was bought turnkey from Bob Newberry, and Rick recently, on 3 consecutive weekends, picked off wins in 3-points races. Now, Rick hasn't won his first national event yet, but I guarantee you one thing. Whoever wins here this weekend, they're going to have to go right through this car.
Here's the way the top 5 cars qualified. Rick Henkelman is the number 5 man. The surprising Sterling Taylor in the 4-hole. 4-time Winston champ Pat Austin is 3. West Coast Lou Gasparelli 2. Randy Anderson, the Winston champ, at the top of the pack. On one side of the ladder, it's Lou Gasparelli against the Woz, the Boogeyman, and Terry DeLaverne. Mitch McDowell and Dennis Taylor in this matchup featuring 4-time Winston champ Pat Austin in the Castrol Syntac Red Wing Shoes car in the near lane against West Coast Charger and Supercharger builder Mert Littlefield. And look at this, the champ out of here in round 1.
Pat, that brand new car of yours just seems to still have some new car bugs.
Well, it does. You know, when we're dealing with a lot of horsepower and torque in our car, we're trying to run it the way we're trying to run it. My dad's giving it one last effort, and he's going to try real hard on the same game plan he's been on, and been working on this combination for a couple of years, and it's started showing off. You know, it's the first alcohol car, the 2-speed to go in the 5s, and it looks like it's got some possibilities, but just don't. We got a long, you know, hard battle ahead of us, and we just keep banging away.
Looks like for Pat it was more than just a bad hair day. There are the other winners on that side of the ladder. Out of the other side, Randy Anderson, the number 1 man at the top of the pack. Other matchups, Austin and Minor, Taylor and Bristow, and RLH, Rick Henkelman, against the Weaver team.
And top alcohol dragster here are the top 5 guys. Rick Santos, who we talked about before. Sean Highland, number 2. Howard Haight is 3. George Johnson in at number 4. And number 5, John Shoemaker. Jay Payne from Upland, California had his hands full in round number 1 against another West Coast racer, Ron Capps. Jay came in the number 6 qualifier, Capps number 11, and in this round 1 matchup, it was not the rules changes that cost Jay Payne this race. Jay was laid out of the hole. Capps was quick on both ends of the track. Jay was out, and Alan talked to him.
Well, Jay, it looks like the showdown with the Chevrolet is not going to happen, at least not at this race.
No, sir. Our driver didn't do well. The car ran real good, but the driver screwed up.
Well, a bunch of guys that didn't screw up are advancing to the second round. Sean Hyland will be taking on Dennis Allen, Howard Haight, and Ron Capps. On the other side of the ladder, it was number 1 qualifier Rick Santos and Frank Pedregon, Taylor, Nicholson, Johnson, Faria, Shoemaker, and Hitchman. And there are the advancers into the second round.
As we go into round number 2 of Top Alcohol Dragster, actually a misnomer with this pair, Bill, because these are fuel-injected nitromethane burning cars. This is Ronnie Capps, the Montana Express. He will duke it out with Howard Haight, who is now driving, or at least for the time being, the injected nitromethane car of Tom Topping.
Ron Capps from Mountain View, California, a Division 7 racer. We've talked about the divisional importance that these racers have to deal with throughout the season. Howard Haight, another West Coast racer from Upland, California. These guys, they don't really travel around the country very much. We don't see them at all at the NHRA national events, and well, this is a nationally televised show, so you can understand that this is kind of an important opportunity for them to get some exposure.
In memory of Jimmy Nix, it says on the side of the car, the veteran top fuel driver fatally injured in an accident earlier this year and still remembered by the drag racing fraternity. Ron Capps finally gets a chance to drive. This is Jack Mitchell's Montana Express. Of course, he punched out Jay Payne in the opener. He'll have to really run here because Howard Haight put a 582 on the board in round 1, Bill.
And Howard staged very quickly. He staged much sooner than Ron Capps, pre-stage and stage, not usually the way it's done.
Capps on the far side now moves in stages, and they're off. Great run, top end. Howard Haight runs him down. The injected power at 232 miles an hour, 584 the elapsed time. Capps with his injected car right there at 597, but slowed a bit from the opening round, and Ron Capps' driving comes to an end here today. Here comes the small block Chevrolet. This is the S&S car, number 1 qualifier. And this is the guy with upset on his mind, Darren Nicholson.
Darren Nicholson, the number 9 qualifier out of Laguna Hills, California. Upset? Yeah, he'll have to beat the number 1 qualifier, Rick Santos, with a small block Chevy lightweight car that Alan tells us about.
NHRA is constantly trying to keep the playing field leveled in these alcohol dragster categories. Now, you have to keep in mind that there are a lot of different cars that run in this category. If you've got a Hemi car, your car will weigh 4.4 pounds per cubic inch. The nitro burners are 3.9 pounds. If you run a true wedge like Rick Santos does, a small block Chevy, Sean Hyland also has a wedge motor. It's 4.1 pounds per cubic inch. Now, basically, what this means is if you have a wedge car or a nitro car, you can run a bigger motor in the same weight car as the guys with the Hemis. What Rick Santos did is he took the small motor, built a real lightweight car, and makes it go down the track very well. There is one other point. They do have a restriction on the blower overdrive. Jay Payne says that last year the rules slowed his overdrive down about 8%. What that means is they have to work the motor a little harder, rev it a little higher to make the same horsepower they used to. But as you see out on the racetrack, all these different types of cars are fairly equal.
They really are, Alan. Rick Santos, Sean Hyland, Howard Haight, George Johnson, John Shoemaker, Jay Payne, top 6 qualifiers, all different types of power plants. Shows you how level the playing field really is. Red light start for Darren Nicholson. Looks like a close race, but it was over right on the starting line. May have been academic. Look at the arithmetic for Santos. 584, 227 miles per hour. Great performance by that small block. Lots of alcohol action around the country the week before the 40th running of Indy. Englishtown for Division 1. Bowling Green for Division 3. Kansas City International Raceway for Division 5. And then in September, up at the Eagleplex in Ashcroft, British Columbia.
Rick, I know you were making a lot of changes in the clutch. Did it shake that time?
It did just very little, but it got down the racetrack pretty good.
They did some maintenance on the starting line. Does that help or hurt this car? This one's different.
Yeah, sometimes it hurts it, but this time it may have helped a little bit.
He ran another 84, headed to the semis.
Interesting pair, this one, Bill. This will be the T-Plus engine treatment car. George Johnson ran a wedge motor all of last year. Those cars seem to be the hot item this year, but he has switched to an Oldsmobile, and he'll take on the Arias-powered machine of Winter Nationals champ John Shoemaker, the American Eagle.
John Shoemaker got off to a great start this season, as you mentioned, Bob, winning the Winter Nationals. Has had some success divisionally, but not really a player for the Winston Championship this year. You know, when you win the Winter Nationals at the beginning of the year, automatically it sort of puts you in a position to be a factor in the Winston Championship. Hasn't happened for him.
George Johnson, probably the best kept top 10 finisher last year. And John Shoemaker has been at this for quite some time. The American Eagle and the American Flag. And we heard a story about that last year here on the Autolite Sportsman Challenge. Very popular racer out here on the West Coast. A welder, a chassis builder, and designer by profession. Does a lot of work on a lot of the other cars that he competes against on both divisional and national levels. The T-Plus engine treatment car, George Johnson, Oldsmobile, ran in the 580s in qualifying and in the opening round. Could be the sleeper in the field.
We're watching the cars stage now. We saw a red light in the last race from Darren Nicholson. There's 0.4 of a second between the 3 amber bulbs and the green bulb. These guys try to time it so that just as those yellow lights flash, they're on the power and hopefully off the line just as the green comes on.
Find out how this pair does on the starting line. Oh, a little smoke off the tires from John Shoemaker. That is not good news. And there is George Johnson and the gang advancing into the semifinals, looking for his first national win of the season. Oh my, 5.99. Slowed a bit from his opening round performance, won the race, but dropped to 10th. Good news, bad news.
Look at this lead for John Shoemaker in the near lane, a 4:05 light, 0.005 of a second away from a perfect light. But in the other lane, George Johnson was really hammering the racetrack. Got the wheels up a little bit out of the hole, but the rest of the run was just picture perfect. You can measure the margin of victory in bus lengths. Let's go down to the end of the track with Alan Reinhardt.
Well, I tell you what, George, a 5.99 slid you past the second round, but I may have some bad news for you. I don't think a 99 is going to stop Rick Santos in the next round.
Oh, I don't know. We can run a lot faster than that. We just thankful to get into the next round and glad this thing holds together. It's been holding together good this weekend, which has been a problem we've had all year long. And, hey, this is great. I love it.
They're having a great time.
Thank you, T-Plus.
We should mention he has a T-shirt on that says the Johnson Brothers. George, no relation to Blaine and those Johnson brothers. Those guys are gone and hopefully forgotten, say the rest of the alcohol dragster drivers. Dennis Allen on the far side of the racetrack against the Pyroil machine. This is Sean Hyland driving what might be the hottest performance car on the circuit right now. Dennis Allen out of Sacramento. Very strong running car. The family's been involved in motor racing for years. In fact, they used to run and hold speed records out of the old Bonneville Salt Flats. The Allen family built the car that Bill Barney is now driving on the Winston Drag Racing Tour. Allen advanced in the first round, beating Larry Sutton, while Sean Hyland put a 5.85 up on the board. Pretty impressive numbers. Look at this. Might be an upset. Not quite. The Highland gang breathing a collective sigh of relief as Sean continues to pound out the big numbers. 5.86 for Highland. He advances to round number 3.
In the last race, we saw John Shoemaker cut an almost perfect light and lose. Same thing happened in this round as we saw a 4:10 light from Dennis Allen, but Sean Hyland had the power up top, won the race.
Well, the latest player in the Wedgehead Wars chalks up another one.
Yeah, this thing's running really good now. We won 2 points races in a row and hopefully make it a third one. Just the Pyro car's really running good now.
RPM different, driving style different, anything with the different motor?
Yeah, this car will pull a lot harder. It's a lot more forgiving if I short shift it or rev it up higher, or it's a way better deal. The valve train is a little easier too.
And sometimes things work out perfectly in life. The top 4 qualifiers here in the Final 4. Rick Santos, George Johnson, and it'll be Howard Haight taking on Sean Hyland. Anyway, back in the pits, it's Bucky Austin. Not wearing a necktie, but getting ready for top alcohol funny car action. That's next.
Part of the capacity crowd here at Sears Point Raceway, home of the Autolite Nationals in the wine country of Northern California. Bob Fry along with Bill Stevens and Alan Reinhardt, and we get set to go into round number 2 of top alcohol funny car. There's the rather radically painted Dennis Taylor entry, and this the rather conservative machine of Mert Littlefield. A couple of guys from California in the Garden Grove area and Placentia, from Orange County Raceway and Lions Dragster. A little history with the hometowns from these two guys, Bill?
Well, you know, we talked a little bit before about these guys here in the alcohol classes like Mert Littlefield from Garden Grove not being national event racers. They don't usually get very far away from where they live. A lot of the times it's because of their budgets. These are sportsman racers. They don't have big sponsorship money behind them. They pretty much have to pay for their racing out of their own pockets. So they pretty much, before the season begins, decide where they're going to run and how much money they have to spend.
Now, I wonder how they decided how to explain the paint job on this car to the guy that's doing it.
Kind of like a, I don't know, camouflage if you're going to a psychedelic party or something.
Well, California would be the place to do that, I guess. Mert Littlefield, the supercharger manufacturer, another very tightly knit family operation. He and his wife and children. And on the near side, Dennis Taylor. Taylor, who has never won a national event on the NHRA Winston Drag Racing Trail, could take a big step in that direction right here. Taylor, yes indeed, Dennis Taylor. The Crawford Head-Taylor combination advances to round number 3 with a 603, 229-mile-per-hour charge. No matter what you say about the looks of the car, they're looking ahead to semifinals.
And the parade of divisional drag racers continues. Lou Gasparelli out of the West Coast in that Dodge Daytona top alcohol funny car, making his burnout against the boogeyman, Wayne Stokel, in his 91 Beretta. Let's go to the end of the track, and Alan.
Well, if you like long shots, Dennis, number 11 qualifier headed for the semis.
Well, you know, Littlefield did this to us last year. He didn't even qualify and made it to the semis. We're good friends. We're neighbors. It's our turn. This Crawford and Head Gallia Motorsports car is just hauling. We couldn't be happier.
Out here on the West Coast, though, all you guys are good friends.
Yeah, we really are. We're like a big family. We share and share alike. I borrowed from Mert this morning. He borrowed from me yesterday. Hey, we're just happy to be here.
These folks all should have been up at Woodstock. Sounds like one great big love-in, but that's what's great about the sportsman races on the NHRA National Event Trail. And it's not just for TV. They really are close friends and willing to do whatever it takes to help out the other guy, even if you got to race him in the next round.
And these guys see each other a lot when they're from the same division because they're competing almost on a weekly basis at just about all the same events that everybody else goes to.
Wayne Stokel, an upholsterer by profession, does a lot of boat work out of the California area. Lou Gasparelli, two-time national event winner, all around nice guy. They just don't come any nicer than Lou Gasparelli. Bob DeVore, his crew chief on this race car, the killer out of the West Coast, the Dodge Daytona, and Lou Gasparelli qualified very well here at this event, put his car in the number 2 spot, bettered only by Randy Anderson. He's been in that 590 range. Gasparelli with a 92 to take out the Waz in the opening round. That's Mark Wozniacek, the casual observers. Wayne Stokel beat Terry DeLaverne with a 602. Louie, little smoke off the tires, veers a little bit, watch out. Gasparelli goes to the pedal at the top end and goes to the semis, 601, 234 miles an hour. He was not scared by the boogeyman.
Well, how about this old Dodge, Louie? It looks pretty easy when it runs like that.
She's a bad old boy. I don't know what we ran.
601. That's why I'm here.
All right, that's good. Ooh. Okay. We're happy.
You got lane choice in the semifinals. Is that a factor here?
I think lane choice is always a factor. I mean, something can happen at any time, and it's just kind of nice to have that lane choice.
When you visit the manufacturer's midway at any NHRA Winston Championship drag race, you'll find there are a lot of things to do. You'll also find some unexpected things. Like when I visited the Allied signal display area here at Sonoma, I found this Dodge Viper. It's a beautiful car, but not exactly the kind of car you expect to see at the drag strip. Then I got to thinking, hey, Sears Point Raceway's got a road course, so this car's probably right at home. Now, if I could just find somebody with the keys to take me for a spin, I'd be a happy guy. I don't think so. Now, if Bill Stevens had asked to take me for a ride, I probably would have said the same thing.
Trust me, Bob, I wouldn't ask.
Bucky Austin and Randy Anderson as we get set to continue in round number 2 of Top Alcohol Funny Car. The Austin family and the Anderson family. This is Pat's uncle, and this is Brad's son. Winston champion driving a brand new Formula Firebird. Bucky Austin, the Northwest hitter, they call him, out of Tacoma, Washington, in Bucky's, mufflers, radiators, brakes, and alcohol funny cars.
Boy, Randy Anderson has got to feel outnumbered. All throughout the season, he's either battling Pat Austin or Bucky Austin. but so far he's been holding his own. He's #1 in Winston points, at least at this juncture of the season.
Yeah, but Bucky's had his number. They went at it up in Columbus in a little staging duel there, and Bucky wound up getting the win, and I'm sure that's playing on Randy's mind right here. Look at this. Neither one of them wants to move in and stage.
Very deliberate. Ooh. Bucky's in now. There's Randy.
Oh, and look at that. Randy looked like he double clutched, to coin a phrase, on the starting line, and Bucky Austin's going to pull a stunning upset. Bucky Austin at 6.16 seconds beats Randy Anderson. Check this out. Anderson ran 5:99, almost 0.2 of a second quicker, but watch this in the near lane, Bill. He just never gets it off the line.
We talk a lot about how intense Randy Anderson is, and look at how slow he is out of the hole. You got to believe that he was, well, psyched out down to the end of the track.
What a hole shot, leaving on the champ like that. Your 16 just outran his 99.
Well, yeah, we were up there, and we waited for a while, and then I staged, and he still waited. So it made me a little mad, so I left.
I guess that makes sense. You're going to be able to pick the performance of this up? I don't think that's going to be enough.
No, a guy's going to have to run a high 90s here in the heat of the day, and if it cools off tonight, you're going to have to run a low 90s. So I was fortunate enough to win the round. He's the champ. He's really good, and we got a little lucky and won.
Remember that headshot we saw of Bucky? I don't think I'd want to get him mad. Now, if he asked me to go for a ride, I'd go with him. Sterling Taylor, the Taylor Motorsports marketing machine, as we continue, but let's get Randy's side of the story first.
Well, the champ goes out here in the second round. Randy, tell me about that starting line deal. What's going on up there?
Well, that's the way Bucky Austin races. I mean, we knew that going up there he might play games. He's got nothing to lose. He's considerably slower, and, you know, it was just one of them deals where it was one big game and he won.
That's the breaks of the game. Randy's gone. Bucky's heading on. RLH, Rick and Linda Hankelman. 3 consecutive Winston Drag Racing Series points race wins here on this West Coast swing. Dynamite automobile. You heard Alan talk about him at the top of the show. There is one of the young Hankelmans. This is one of the not-so-young Hankelmans. Sterling Taylor with his best showing ever on the National Event Tour. Qualified number 4, ran a 5:99 in the first round. 5:93 for Rick Hankelman. A couple of hundreds in the bank. Let's watch the Taylor Motorsports marketing. His wife Linda out in front of the race car. There's a team that races their car in the West Coast swing, went to Japan with NHRA a couple of years ago, does a lot of promotion around the area at schools, at prisons, talks to the young kids about how to get a positive focus in their lives. Does a great job. Sterling needs a positive focus right here, or Sterling Taylor will be gone.
And Rick Hankelman, as you mentioned, has won 3 straight points races this season. What's significant about that, Bob, was 3 consecutive weeks. That had never been done before.
They're ready. They're off. Good move. Taylor out of the starting box. Sterling Taylor out in front. No, Rick Hankelman just did run him down. Hankelman 5.98 seconds. Advances Sterling Taylor with a losing effort at 6:04. Good old drag race.
Sure was, Bob. And take a look at this race from pillar to post. Almost even out of the starting line. Sterling Taylor, a little bit of tire smoke, about 50 feet out. That might have been the difference in the race. As you see on the top end of the racetrack, it's really that close. And Alan is with Rick.
Rick, low ET of the round. This car's still thumping.
This is my kind of racetrack. It's, you know, anytime you get some heat, you get a little loose racetrack. This is going to be my kind of racetrack. And I got to take a minute to thank Hans Kusel. We were down to nothing yesterday. We had no engine. We had no block. We went back to San Jose yesterday. We built a short block in an hour and a half, made it back here, put it in the car. One last night, one today. You got to thank him, because other than that, we would not be here today.
One motor. They're taking real good care of it in Hankelman camp.
Well, I'll say this. It's a good thing they know the way to San Jose. Gasparelli and Dennis Taylor, Bucky Austin, and Rick Hankelman. That's the final 4 in Top Alcohol Funny Car right here on the Autolite Sportsman Challenge. They're loving the action here at Sears Point Raceway and the Autolite Nationals here on Prime Network, the Autolite Sportsman Challenge. Semifinals, Top Alcohol Dragster. I should mention before we go into the semifinal round, Bill, The West Coast has always been a hotbed of racing activity for both top alcohol dragsters and top alcohol funny cars. Over 2 days of qualifying, we had almost 30 cars try to make the field. Now look at this. Little problems in the T-Plus car for George Johnson, who has qualified so well and run so well over the last couple of days, looking to go to his first final of the year, might not even make it to the starting line.
Obviously a problem in the drivetrain. They cannot get the car to back up. Rick Santos, in the meantime, doing his burnout now. The Johnson team technically does have an opportunity to stage the car if they can work the problems out. It appears now as if they're going to be able to stage the automobile, but they're not taking a burnout, or at least it appears they're not.
Well, that would appear to be a death knell for a car in this category. The burnouts look great, the fans love them, but they serve a very practical purpose. You heat up the tires, you soften the rubber, you put some rubber down on the racetrack, back into the tracks, and hopefully get maximum traction when you come off the starting line. George Johnson is not able to do any of that. So if he gets off the line without smoking the tires, Bill, that in itself will be a stunning upset.
Exactly. Well, ironically, we've seen this happen a couple of times so far this season. Sean Hyland comes to mind. He won that particular round only because the guy in the other lane broke. So yeah, the burnout is critical to getting these cars launched properly.
So it's George Johnson with that Oldsmobile-powered machine. Rick Santos, the S&S automotive entry, the only small block Chevrolet in the ballpark. Let's see what the T-Plus car can do over there on the far side of the racetrack. Well, he stayed. That's more than I thought he would do. Oh, and a red light start. Well, he didn't smoke the tires, but he fouled out. The end result, the same thing. The purple gang, excuse me, sir, your pants are on fire. They're going into the finals. Rick Santos, 588, 216 miles an hour. George has run in the 580s. Whether he would have been able to take him out with that 88 or not, we'll never know. Sean Hyland, the High Royal team, would now love to advance into that much-anticipated final round matchup with the small block Chevrolet. All they've got to do, hey, get by Howard Haight and the injected, nitro-burning, former record-holding car of Tom Topping here in the near lane. Alan?
Well, let's see if I got this straight. We're in California. It's summertime. Santos is in the final. Everything's right with the world.
Boy, that's sure nice, ain't it?
Anything happen on that run? You got the clutch all figured out now?
I don't know. I put a little more in it again, and it seemed like it handled it. Shook a little still, but the track's kind of greasy. The heat's a little hotter today, and it seems like it's working okay.
Should cool off before that final round.
Sean Hyland would love to take on that small block Chevrolet and prove that he's the baddest guy on the West Coast right about now. Beat him in the points race on the Winston Drag Racing Series just a couple of weeks ago, but one race is not a season make. The High Royal sponsored machine, the wedge-powered entry, Sam Shockley, the crew chief, out in front, Dad Hyland over to the left, and the rest of the little Hylands watching as Sean hopes to take the family car into the final round. This injected car, though, Bill, is awfully tough. It was formerly the record holder. The car has run in the 570s.
We talk about it a lot, haven't talked about it today, but inconsistency, the bugaboo with injected nitro cars. But this car today has been the picture of consistency. Let's watch what happens.
Bang, they're off the starting line. Oh, and Sean Hyland's got big problems. Look at this. Howard Haight, the injected car, hello, going to the finals at a 6:07. Only 197 miles an hour. He was there for the taking, but Sean Hyland could not respond. Finals, Rick Santos against surprise finalist, first-time finalist, Howard Haight. Alan?
Now, Howard, who would have guessed that 8 years without winning a round in national event competition, and now you're headed to the final? Come on.
I don't know what to say, except God bless Tom Topping and Dave Huss and everybody involved with this car.
Performance fell off a little bit, and that 6:07 is not going to take care of the Chevy in the final.
I shut the car off a little bit early. It laid over a little bit. We got a little bit rushed coming up for the final, or for the semi, excuse me. And we'll take our time, look at everything, and we'll be ready.
Keep in mind, they ran 80s in qualifying.
Let's look at everything right now on that race. Unlike top fuel dragsters, top alcohol dragsters have transmissions. These guys are shifting. In the far lane, Hyland is out okay, but when he makes that first gear change, bada boom. The car rolls to a stop. Let's get his side of it.
Sean, I tell you, the car was flying. What went wrong out there?
I don't know. It was on a good pass, so I tried to shift it. Something must have broken the transmission. It wouldn't shift into second gear, so that's what happens. You know, that's racing.
Next week you go up to Seattle. You're in your home part of the country. At least you're putting on a pretty good show.
Yeah, hopefully next week we can get the shift and make it all the way to the final that time.
Gasparelli and Taylor. The winner will be our first finalist in the alcohol funny car category. Teammates direct him up to the starting line, tell him you've got about that much before you're right in that pre-stage beam. Drivers hit a pre-stage section and then move forward just a little bit. He perfectly stays right at the beginning of the quarter mile. Look at Taylor. Taylor out in front. Dennis Taylor. No, the red car ran him down. 6:03 for Lou Gasparelli. 6:08 for Dennis Taylor. He was right there.
This is the kind of action that drag racing fans love to see. Watch this. Both cars off the line just about side by side. 4:97 reaction time for Lou Gasparelli, 4:78 for Taylor. But at the other end of the track, it's a battle of horsepower. Up here, these two cars powered by Keith Black-style Hemi engines are really motoring. As you can see at the finish line, it's Gasparelli by, almost too little to measure.
I tell you what, Louie, that was a pretty good old drag race down at this end.
Oh, man, that's what drag racing's all about.
I know you could see him out there, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah, I could see him, but I figured I'd had him.
It's been a while since we've seen you in the winner's circle. Today could be it.
Oh, we're going to be there, I promise you. We're ready.
He promised.
I promise.
In the immortal words of Lou Gasparelli, she's a bad old boy.
Yeah, that Lou Gasparelli, heck of a gal, isn't he?
You're in big trouble. Rick Henkelman, the RLH team. L stands for Linda, that's his wife. And on the far side, Bucky Austin, his wife Julie. It's the 90s. We've got to give equal time. Bucky took out the #1 qualifier and reigning Winston champ in that stunning upset in round number 2, beating Randy Anderson. Henkelman, hot here on the West Coast. He'll get all he can handle right here with Bucky Austin, Northwest hitter. They don't call him that for nothing.
Well, Bucky has got to have a real heavy appetite for a national event win. He won the Motorcraft Quality Care Nationals way back in Phoenix and hasn't been to a national winner's circle yet. Rick, as we mentioned earlier, having a lot of success on the divisional trail, but national win would taste mighty good to him, too.
Henkelman, a low 590 or 580 race car, may have a little too much power for Bucky if he goes strictly on numbers. But we saw Bucky, the big equalizer, on that starting line in the quarterfinal round. If he can get off the starting line well here, might be able to hold off Rick Henkelman. Bucky out of the starting gate, top end of the racetrack. It is Bucky Austin over RLH. Bucky gets the WIN. 6:03, 232 miles an hour. It's Bucky, it's Louie. In the finals, Lou Gasparelli has lane choice. Thank you.
Bucky, I don't know how to tell you this, but Lou Gasparelli just promised me he was going to win this race.
Well, Lou's a tough competitor. There's not a better guy in the world. The whole team is great, and should be an exciting final.
You ran 03, he ran 03, a couple of thousandths. He's going to pick the lane, but it doesn't look like there's any difference out there.
Well, we both ran 03?
Correct.
Well, I was in trouble last time. I did some weird stuff, and it didn't work. I just lucked out and won by a hole shot. I'm glad the car's coming around now, so it should be a close race.
His last national win was Arizona this year.
And in the semifinals of his last win at Arizona, he beat Lou Gasparelli.
Take another look as Bucky takes on Rick Henkelman in the round just finished. And the second consecutive race we've seen very good racing at both ends of the track. Bucky Austin is going to move on to the finals. Let's go to Al.
Well, Rick, I guess today just wasn't meant to be. The car fell off. Something wrong?
Yeah, we spun that when the 1-2 change. It spun the tires hard, came out of the groove, shook the tires. The car just stopped on the 1-2 change and couldn't make it up.
It still looks like you've got the hottest car on the West Coast. I mean, this thing has just been screaming.
Yeah, it's really running good, and it's not hurting any parts, and we're just tickled with the thing, even though we should have got around him, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Lou Gasparelli looking for his third national event title here at Sears Point Raceway. All he's got to do is stop Bucky Austin. There was a lot of racing action in the other sportsman categories. Let's take the Reader's Digest condensed version. Buddy Nickens the first against Jack Laster the third. Laster earlier beat David Nickens. Buddy says, take that, Jack Laster the third. I've won my fourth national championship event. Castrol GTX in the winner's circle one more time. Near lane, it's the checkmate car. It's Dan Fletcher. He won at Columbus. He won out in Denver just a week ago, taking on the latest in a long line of Lambecks. Well, there's two of them. Short line, near side, all the way from Rochester, New York. I love New York. Dan Fletcher gets the win, his third and his second in as many weeks. Way to go, Danny boy. Speaking of families, it's Eric. Where's Waldo? Over on the far side of the racetrack. His father has won 6 national event wins. Tony Hughes near lane breaks. Waldo gets the win, his first. Here's the guy that whooped them all in Super Gas, the heads-up 990 category last year. Over on the far side, the teal-colored Chevrolet Corvette, James Arsenault, looking for his second national event win. Trying to beat the pride of Phoenix, Robert Button. Arsenault, winner, his second. Actually, before I get letters, it was the pride of Payson, Arizona, Robert Button, just down the road from Phoenix. Here's the kid, far lane, Ryan Teets, crashed earlier this season, his first race in Pomona, California, running in the latest in a long line of Teets family racers. He is 16 years old. He will become the youngest national event winner ever.
Brian, how's it feel to be the youngest national event winner in history?
It's neat because I'm the first one that did it, and it's fun to be out here racing with all the other guys.
It must be nice to be 16 and be able to use words like neat. Finals, top alcohol dragster, the topping car with the veteran Howard Haight at the wheel, looking for his first win ever. He's got Rick Santos and the small block Chevrolet in the other lane.
We said at the top of the show that Rick Santos is one of those guys that has his eye on the Winston Championship this season. He does not have a Jay Payne to contend with. Everybody was anticipating that kind of a matchup here in the finals. Instead, Rick is facing one of those unpredictable injected nitro cars.
Rick Santos running on the West Coast. He's going to have to take this car on the road, I believe, if he wants to contend for the Winston National Championship. These racers get points at the regional races, the divisional races we talked about earlier in the show, and the national events. And I think if Rick Santos wants to put that number 1 on the side of the car, he's going to have to go on the road. Being sponsored this weekend by Big 4 Rents, a company that rents a lot of party equipment and construction equipment and just about anything else you want from right out here in the California area. Now, if they could rent you a car like that small block Chevrolet, baby, business, pow, right through the roof.
Well, you mentioned them going on the road. If they were to win this race, this national event, it could play into their decision as to what they do the rest of the year.
Of course, the Seattle race comes up next weekend. We'll have that for you here on the Autolite Sportsman Challenge on Prime Network. Interesting scenario. Santos wants to win the Winston Championship. Howard Haight would just be happy to win right here. And look at this. Howard Haight takes off before the car's ever staged. This race over right on the starting line. What an anticlimactic finish. I guess not if you're in favor of Rick Santos. The small block, 587, 227 miles an hour, and Howard must have just had those butterflies up there, never even staged the race car.
Yeah, this is one of those bizarre things that happen every now and again. You can't explain it, but it happened. Santos is your winner.
I tell you, Rick, we chase the Winston points from coast to coast, and everybody says, yeah, Santos is running good, but he's got to win national events. Well, that's one.
There's one. How about that, boy? The car's just been running pretty good all weekend, and everything just seemed to happen our way, and I'm just great we were here.
You finally got the shake out of it, got the clutch figured out. What was the secret?
Just pile some on it, I guess.
Just needed more clutch to get down the racetrack?
Apparently. So far it's working. Let's hope it'll continue.
Well, talking about numbers, in the semifinal round, Lou Gasparelli in beating Dennis Taylor went 6.035. Bucky beating Henkelman went 6.036. I don't think there are 2 better matched cars in the entire field that should be going for the final round victory here.
Very evenly matched race cars. Unlike the alcohol dragster category, which has a variety of options to run, almost all the cars in this category pretty much dealing from the same deck. Same basic type engine, same type of cubic inches, all weighing about the same thing.
And as far as skill at the starting line, I don't think you can really give that edge to either driver because both have made plenty of runs down the quarter mile, lots of experience, maybe a little bit of an edge to Bucky maybe because of the age factor, but other than that, I'd say it's heads up all the way.
I'm telling Bucky, you called him old. You're in big trouble. This should be a fun drag race. There is Julie Austin, Bucky's wife. They live up in that great northwestern part of the country where we will all be, and hope you'll join us either in person or right here on Prime Network for the Autolite Sportsman Challenge from Seattle. The Northwest Nationals coming up next week. Gasparelli in the near lane, Bucky Austin in the far lane. The final race of the day here at Sears Point Raceway, Sonoma, California, and the Autolite Nationals. Let's watch as 2 of the best West Coast practitioners of top alcohol funny car racing get it on. It's Gasparelli out first. Gasparelli at the 8th mile. Lou Gasparelli wins it wire to wire. And the guy that lost with a 598 in Phoenix wins with a 599 here in Sonoma. Lou Gasparelli, his 3rd national event win, and he won it right out of the starting gate, but a great drag race.
And everything done just about the way the book says for Lou Gasparelli. Good reaction time, not great but good, 485. But up top, we expect Bucky Austin to have a power advantage. He didn't.
Louis, you did it. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much, man. This is a great day for Gasparelli racing.
In California, you're going to have the party of the year here.
Oh, boy, you got that. I tell you, these guys have all worked really hard for this team, and we deserve the win.
I really thought you'd be jumping up and down.
Well, I will later.